From Interior Alaska's most trusted news source, this is the Fbx Evening News.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us. A 40-year-old man appeared in federal court this morning charged with the kidnapping of 2 young girls in North Pole.
Michael Bowen pleaded not guilty to the charges that could land him in prison for life. Now, according to charging documents, Bowen forcefully took the 6- and 9-year-old girls while they were riding their bikes and drove them more than 15 miles out of town. FBI agents say when interviewed, Bowen admitted to taking the girls to, quote, teach the parents a lesson. Federal Judge Scott Orevic ordered Bowen held without bail after prosecutors argued he was both a flight risk and a danger to the community. Bowen's defense asked that he be transferred out of Fbx Correctional Center because one of the officers there is related to the victims. The judge ordered that he be moved to Anchorage and set his trial for October.
A North Pole man is facing felony charges after authorities say he assaulted a woman with a sword. Travis Fugate was indicted by a Fairbanks grand jury on August 20th on a list of upgraded charges, including attempted murder, coercion, felony assault, and kidnapping. Today, he pleaded not guilty. According to court documents, Fugate attacked a woman inside of his home, forced her to do drugs, and told her he was going to keep her against her will. Fugate allegedly held a sword to her neck and threatened to kill her. Troopers arrested Fugate at the scene, and he is being held at Fairbanks Correctional Center without bail. A trial for his case is scheduled for October.
The Tanana man convicted of tampering with physical evidence in the murder of 2 Alaska State troopers is due to be sentenced in Superior Court tomorrow. Arvin Kangas was found guilty of 3 felonies by a Nenana jury in April. Though the jury did not find it aggravators to increase his sentence range, Kangas could still face up to 15 years jail time for the crime. Kangas' son Nathaniel Kangas is charged with the murder of the 2 uniformed officers that happened inside of their residence in Tanana on May 1st, 2014. The troopers had come to the village to arrest Arvin on assault charges. Trial for Nathaniel Kangas is scheduled for November.
Alaska Governor Bill Walker spoke today about President Barack Obama's trip to Alaska. The president has scheduled a 3-day visit with the first stop in Anchorage at the Conference on Global Leadership in the Arctic. The president has said his main reason for visiting the 49th state is to raise awareness about climate change. From Anchorage, Obama will go to Seward, Dillingham, and Kotzebue to meet with community members before departing the state. Governor Walker says he plans to speak with the president one-on-one about the administration's proposal to designate the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge as wilderness, which would cut off access to potential oil drilling locations.
I will talk a bit about the Statehood Compact. That was a compact between the federal government and the state of Alaska when it became a state, which talks about access to living off the resources, and so I will explain the necessity of doing that. I'll also emphasize our financial situation that we're in as a result of the price of oil, and again why we need access to our resources.
State Budget Director Pat Pitney spoke before community business leaders today to discuss steps needed to reach fiscal stability. On Monday, the Walker administration held a presentation as part of ongoing efforts to inform the public and lawmakers about options for balancing the budget. During the Greater Fairbanks Chamber of Commerce weekly general member luncheon, Pitney stressed the need to take action in the next session. Numerous options to raise revenue are being considered, such as selling pension obligation bonds to reduce annual retirement payment. Tax revenue options include an income tax, statewide sales tax, and an education tax. Pitney says a combination of budget cuts and raising revenues is needed.
We have 2 years of existing savings before we hit, you can either call it a cliff or a wall. But if we take action now, sooner, say in the next session, we can take smaller actions and be more prudent in our decisions.
All right, when we come back, Republican presidential candidate Rand Paul stopped by Fairbanks this afternoon to talk about various subjects. We'll share his views with you.
Also, at our weekly health report, with the kids back in school, the chance for spreading germs and other illnesses is increased, and we'll tell you why. These stories and more when we come back.
Welcome back. Eielson Air Force Base has scheduled its 3rd public meeting that will address groundwater contamination in the community of Moose Creek. The meeting is scheduled for 6 p.m. this Wednesday at the North Star Fire Department, Station 5 in Moose Creek. Eielson officials and researchers will be presenting the latest findings about contaminants that leaked from Eielson Air Force Base and into groundwater wells that surrounding community members rely on. In previous meetings, researchers stated that contaminated water was found down to 100 feet deep in some areas of Moose Creek. The main topic for the meeting tomorrow night will be about how the Air Force plans to filter contaminants out of water wells for residents.
U.S. Senator Rand Paul, a Kentucky Republican and presidential hopeful in 2016, today made stops in Alaska in support of his bid for the Republican nomination. After campaigning in Anchorage this morning, Paul spoke at the Westmark Hotel here in Fairbanks. He describes himself as a different kind of Republican, believing the government should stay out of people's lives and support the liberty movement that some say peaked in 2012. Today he spoke of rewriting the nation's tax code, keeping boots off the ground in the Middle East, and limited authority of the EPA. Paul has seen poll numbers drop slightly over the past 30 days, polling at 4.85%. Now that's nearly 20 points back of GOP frontrunner Donald Trump. Paul says his 5-state Pacific Northwest swing is a chance to garner support in presidential preference states such as Alaska. Paul says his message resonates with Alaskans because he shares similar values with the population of the 49th state.
We're looking for voters who are sort of part of what I call the Leave Me Alone coalition. We heard there were a few of those kind of people up here in Alaska. Alaska's got a reputation, even back in the lower 48, for having independent spirited people, and that's the kind of people we tend to attract. People who don't think the government should be looking at your phone records, people who think that government ought to leave the states and the people alone. And we had a big crowd in Anchorage and a big crowd here in Fairbanks, so we think the message is very well received up here in Alaska.
Temperatures are starting to dip throughout the interior, and soon it will be time to start thinking about keeping your home warm during the winter. Now, for villages in the Tanana Chiefs Conference region, an annual program will soon be taking applications for those who need help paying for energy costs and home weatherization. The Home Energy Assistance Program provides support to households with low incomes, even if they are above the poverty line. Residents in Fairbanks are served by a different state program, but those eligible outside of town can find the application on the TCC website to begin applying in October. The TCC held a public hearing today to receive feedback on the program. Client Development Director Don Schursel says the program is helpful, but will also need to be supplemented with other savings.
Those are part of the traditional Athabascan values of always looking ahead and taking care of your family and your community members. We don't want anyone to become dependent on any of these programs, well-intentioned or not. The one thing that you can depend upon is you live in Alaska, winter's coming, it's going to be cold, and you're going to have to keep yourself warm.
Kids are back in rooms with a lot of other people as school gets underway for yet another year. The close quarters can mean an easier spread of germs, as we hear in this week's health report.
The start of the school year goes hand in hand with the start of cold and flu season. Kids are not exposed to as many germs when they are outside playing all summer, but once they go back to school, germs have a field day.
All of a sudden, everything gets spread from person to person, and so germs definitely have more people in close quarters in combination with not leaving small rooms, and there's less places for the germs to go, and so that's usually why we see an uptick in people getting sick.
It's important to remind children to wash their hands frequently to prevent the spread of germs, especially after sneezing or using the bathroom. Doctors recommend hands and wrists be washed for 20 seconds with soap and warm water to get rid of cold and flu viruses. Alcohol-based hand sanitizing gels are popular, but it is important to keep two things in mind for best results.
It works best if you don't have anything on your hands actively, like any dirt or debris, number one. Otherwise, it's not going to be as effective. And number two, the main trick is you want to use it until you wipe your hands dry. So you want to keep rubbing the gel until it's gone.
Doctors recommend practicing good hand-washing habits at home throughout the school year, especially for younger children. This is Monty Bowen reporting.
The Health Report is brought to you by the Ear, Nose, and Throat Clinic, located in the Medical Dental Arts Building, and by Interior Women's Health, located on 1626 30th Avenue.
Okay, Joe Cook is up next with sports, and he has news of former hockey players and coaches from the interior that are moving up to the college ranks.
Nice. Those stories and more with Joe after the break.
Welcome back Interior Alaska. Joe Cook here with your local Tuesday Sportscast. The coaching carousel continues for hockey coaches this offseason. A couple of guys with Ice Dogs and Nanack ties are moving up to the college hockey ranks as coaches. Former Ice Dogs head coach Josh Howgie has been named the new assistant coach for the Division I Clarkson Golden Knights of the Eastern College Athletic Conference. Howgie guided the Ice Dogs to their first Robertson Cup title in 2011. He coached the Fairbanks junior team from 2008 to 2011. Recently, he was an assistant for the Fargo Force of the USHL and served as the head coach and GM for the Tri-City Storm from 2011 to 2014. According to the Clarkson release, all of Haugie's players for the Tri-City Storm went to Division I programs or landed pro deals. Howgie will get to coach former Ice Dogs and junior goalie Steve Perry, who was Clarkson's Rookie of the Year in 2014, and sophomore winger Brett Gervais. The Golden Knights went 12-20-5 overall and 8-11-3 in the ECAC last season. And a former interior hockey coach will be a bench boss in college this season. Former Ice Dogs assistant coach and UAF netminder Eric Largen will be the new head coach of the Marion University Sabres. The Sabres are a Division III program in Fond du Lac, Wisconsin. They play in the Northern Collegiate Hockey Association. Largen, who graduated from West Valley High School, was an assistant for the past couple of seasons with the Janesville Jets. Before that, he was an assistant with the Tri-City Storm. He also served as Haugie's assistant coach when the Ice Dogs won the 2011 Robertson Cup. While at UAF, Largen made 34 saves in 4 appearances and was a part of a goalie crew that included Wiley Rogers and Chad Johnson. Marion U finished 5th in the conference with a 9-8-1 record, and they went 14-12-1 overall last season. Largen will be the 6th head coach in program history for Marion University hockey. And staying with hockey, an NAHL player announced his commitment to the Alaska Nanacks today. Jack Weiss announced his commitment to UAF today via Twitter. Weiss, a 5'11", 175-pound defenseman from Bloomington, Minnesota, played for the Minnesota Magicians in 2013 and tallied 7 points in 55 games. Last season, he played 16 games and had 3 assists for the eventual NAHL champion Minnesota Wilderness. He closed 2015 out with the Rio Grande Valley Killer Bees, and in 34 games, he notched 6 assists. He also added a helper in 2 playoff appearances for Rio Grande. A reminder that the Alaska Nanack hockey program will be holding their Select a Seat event on Wednesday night. The event is from 5 to 8 p.m. and hockey fans can buy season tickets early and also a seat that they like. This will be a night of fun as well. Fans will come out. We'll get a sample of new Carlson Center concessions and local beers and microbrews. Beer will be allowed in sections 101 through 109 and sections 201 through 207 this season. There will also be a drawing for Alaska Airlines tickets and more Carlson Center giveaways. Fans will be able to meet players and coaches during a locker room tour as well. Alaska will drop the puck on the 2015-2016 season with a Blue Gold game on September 26th. This high school tennis match was made up recently, and it looks like there will be some more rescheduling. Lathrop got their first win of the season this past Friday by sweeping Monroe 7-0 in a match that was made up due to rain last Tuesday. Some notable results in the number 2 singles matches. Lathrop's Amelia Helms-Leslie earned a hard-fought first victory of the season, 6-1, 4-6, 7-4 over Morgan Withers, and Jack Roselius won 6-1, 6-0 over Jacob Rowenhost of Monroe. And it's been a little bit of a slow start for high school tennis for the second day in the first 2 weeks of the season. Matches had to be canceled or rescheduled due to the rain. Today's matches between Hutchinson, West Valley, and Lathrop versus North Pole have been postponed. One match from opening day last week was canceled while another was made up. Weather permitting, Thursday's tennis matchup will pit Monroe against West Valley and the Patriots against the Hawks Ravens. Lastly, here are the results from the 8th Seekins Ford Golden Heart Trail Run. A familiar name came in first again. In a field of 84 adults, Lathrop product Devin McDowell won his 4th straight Golden Heart title with a time of 19 minutes, 19 seconds in the 5K race at the Birch Hill Rec area. Bruce Sackinger was second in 20:47, while Sancho Ponza took 3rd place. In the women's division, Melissa Lewis's time of 21 minutes, 36 seconds won her 2nd title in 4 years. She held off runner-up David Flaherty, who was just 6 seconds behind in 20:42, and Darley McWayne rounded out the top 3 women's finishers. And that'll do it for sports tonight. Mike Schultz is up next with your full weather forecast, and we'll catch you next time.
Hey everyone, welcome back into a Tuesday night edition of the Fbx Evening News. Mike Schultz with you once again talking about the weather, and as Joe was saying earlier, a lot of things being canceled because of the rain and not much hope in store for the next 2 or 3 days the way it looks right now. Heavy rain expected. We'll talk more about that in just a little bit. Our photograph tonight looks almost like a painting, but it's actually a photograph, a beautiful shot captured by Shelley Potter, late summer in the Nilchik. Look at the colors on that, and just a really gorgeous shot there. And as always, if you have a photograph to share, we'll send it to photos@ktvf11.com and we'll share it with the rest of the audience. Your numbers look like this. Today's high 52 degrees with rain falling all day long. The overnight low 45, the record high 76. That was set in 1987. The record low just below freezing in 1965. Now the sunrise and sunset works out to about 15 hours and 25 minutes, a loss of 7 minutes from yesterday. On the satellite picture, we were talking about it last night. Look at this big train of moisture coming across the Bering Sea, headed right for the interior. And as you can see on the latest radar, we are getting lots of rain covering the entire area. A little closer look, zooming in on the radar. Again, no end in sight as this flow is really strong, moving across from the west to the east, and it's going to continue, looks like, through the next couple of days with even heavier rain expected tomorrow. What's going on across the rest of the state? Well, over southeast Alaska, it's just the opposite. Lots of sunshine for Juneau and Ketchikan, 66 and 64 degrees for the temperatures there. Raining in the Anchorage Bowl, 66 degrees, just partly cloudy skies at Kodiak, 60. It was cloudy skies along the Aleutian chain around Coal Bay, 57 degrees, Bethel at 53, and 50 degrees, partly cloudy skies at Nome. And look at Beryl warming up to 52 degrees, warm temperatures. That's because of the flow coming out of the south. And Fort Yukon at 54 degrees with cloudy skies. Lower 48 weather, once again we're talking about hot temperatures over the southwest. Not quite 100 degrees in Las Vegas, it was 100 degrees at Phoenix. Another hot day in Denver and Salt Lake City and Dallas at 93. Not a bad day in Seattle, 78, partly cloudy skies, warming up a little bit in Minneapolis. Chicago around 72 degrees, and St. Louis at the 80-degree mark. Over the eastern side of the country, looking at temperatures in the mid to upper 80s, and the same over the deep south. On the satellite and radar there, not a whole lot going on. A few showers and thunderstorms moving across the Houston area this morning. This area of low pressure still working its way across the Great Lakes, helping to bring a few showers in. And out to the west, it's some afternoon showers and thunderstorms developing with some return flow in a high pressure area over the Central Plains. And the hot temperatures are going to continue, unfortunately. Look at these hot temperatures widespread over the western half of the country, all again because of the jet stream. Now we're going to talk about kids' weather because in 2005, Tropical Storm Katrina became a hurricane, eventually flooding in New Orleans. And as far as kids' weather goes, well, we again like to thank the folks at Mount McKinley Bank celebrating their 50 years of serving the Fairbanks interior. Next week, we'll visit with the kids at Anderson Elementary School at Eielson Air Force Base. Now, the lower 48, once again, as you can see here, the jet stream is way up to the north. That is allowing a lot of hot air to come up from the south, and that's going to continue. And as far as what's going on across Alaska, well, again, we're looking at wild weather going on. Rain at Barrow, heavy rain possible for Nome and Fort Yukon, and the same can be said for the interior. Periods of heavy rain in Fairbanks and Delta Junction, and more rain expected for the Healy region. Over southeast Alaska, it looks like sunny skies at Juneau, partly cloudy skies for Ketchikan. While over the southwest part of the state, rainy periods at Bethel, mostly cloudy skies at Coal Bay and Kodiak. And over the south central regions around the Anchorage Bowl, early morning rain for Anchorage and Homer, and more rain likely for Valdez. So a wet pattern over the entire state. You saw why on the satellite picture. In our forecast for tonight, periods of rain and areas of fog out there. You can see it right now. 50 degrees the overnight low. Tomorrow's forecast, more rain that could be heavy at times. 57 degrees. And by the way, the rivers and streams will be rising a pretty good rate. We'll keep an eye on those for you tomorrow, but definitely going to be looking at some potential flooding situations. We'll keep more advised on that. Now, as far as the 5-day outlook, you can see more rain expected on Thursday, then just cloudy skies for Friday and Saturday. Sunday, maybe some more showers back in the picture and a better chance on showers on Monday. But look at the overnight lows. Temperatures dropping down to the upper 30s to mid 30s. And then warming up a little bit by Saturday and Sunday, but Friday night, look out, it could get kind of chilly. So you gardeners, keep that in mind for your protecting your vegetables and plants.
Should we be nervous, Mike?
4 degrees away from freezing. That's incredible. Yeah. Wow. But makes for good football games. It's true.
I guess.
Slip and slide. Slip and slide.
Absolutely. All right, thanks, Mike. That'll wrap up this edition of the Fbx Evening News. We are glad you could join us.
Well, tonight on NBC Nightly News, the wildfires that are burning in the state of Washington are now as large as the state of Rhode Island.
Wow.
Lester Holt has more on that coming up next.
You can join us here 6 days a week at 6 and 11 or online anytime at webster11.com.
All right, from all of us here at the News Center, have a good night.